The crumbling Victorian sat at the edge of the cul-de-sac, like a rotting tooth in a perfect smile. For decades, the neighbors had looked away, ignoring the sagging porch, the ivy that had become structural, and the heavy, rhythmic thud of a loose shutter that sounded uncomfortably like a heartbeat in the wind. To most, it was a liability, a blight on the property values of the suburban dream. But to those with a specific kind of vision, it was a siren song. There's a primal, inexplicable pull toward forgotten, a desire to step into the rot and breathe life back into lungs of dying structure. The concept of the Great Restoration has moved beyond simple home improvement. It has become a modern mythology, fueled by the intersection of advanced technology and a deep, ancestral yearning for permanence in a disposable world. When we look at an abandoned house, we aren't just seeing wood and stone. We are seeing a mirror of human neglect and the tantalizing possibility of redemption. Why we are drawn to the ruin. To understand a journey from an abandoned shell to a dream home, one must first understand why the before state is so captivating. Psychologists often refer to the aesthetic of decay. There's a strange comfort in seeing nature reclaim human efforts. It reminds us of the passage of time and the fragility of our own creations. When a house is left to the elements, it undergoes a transformation. The wallpaper peels in long, parchment-like strips, revealing layers of history. Floral patterns from the 70s, stark geometric shapes from the 50s, and the original plaster of the late 1800s. These layers represent the lives of families who once laughed, argued, and dreamed within these walls. An abandoned house is a silent library of untold stories. For the modern restorer, the initial walkthrough is an exercise in forensic archaeology. You find a single leather shoe left in a corner, a stack of newspapers from the day the moon landing happened, or a child height markings etched into a doorframe that now leads to a room with no floor. This emotional weight provides a fuel for the grueling months or years of restoration that follow. Seeing the invisible, restoring a ruin requires a unique cognitive ability, the capacity to overlay a non-existent future onto a devastating present. Where a building inspector sees black mold and structural compromise, a visionary sees vaulted ceilings and an open-concept kitchen. In the digital age, this vision is being augmented by artificial intelligence. To visualize renovations before a single nail is pulled. These tools can take a photo of a collapsed ballroom and, within seconds, render a fully realized image of that same room with restore mahogany paneling, period-accurate lighting, and modern structural reinforcements. This marriage of the old and the new is the hallmark of the contemporary dream home. We no longer want sterile modern boxes. We want homes with soul, but with the climate control and connectivity of the 21st century. The challenge lies in the delicate balance of preservation and modernization. How much of the ghost do you leave behind? The romanticism of restoration usually dies the moment the first floorboard is ripped up. This is the valley of despair in any major project. In an abandoned home, the enemies are silent and pervasive. Water, gravity, and time. Water is the primary architect of ruin. A single missing shingle can lead to a decade of rot that travels from a roof line down to the foundation. When restoring a dream home, the first priority is never the paint or the light fixtures. It is the envelope. You must make the house watertight. This often involves stripping the structure down to its skeleton. There is something hauntingly beautiful about a house in its skeletal state. Stripped of its skin, you see the craftsmanship of the original builders, the hand-hewn beams, the square-cut nails, and the ingenuity of a time before power tools. Modern restoration often seeks to keep these elements exposed. A load-bearing beam from 1890, scarred by fire or age, becomes a centerpiece in a modern living room, serving as a literal bridge between centuries. Once the structure is sound, the soul work begins. This is where the abandoned house truly transforms into a dream home. The goal in high-end restoration is to create a curated history. Imagine a kitchen where the walls are made of the original reclaimed brick, clean of a century's worth of soot, but the island is a monolithic slab of honed Calacatta marble. The contrast is electric. It creates a tension that new construction simply cannot replicate. In the master suite of a restored manor, one might find the original fireplace, non-functional but preserved as a piece of sculpture. set against floor-to-ceiling glass walls that overlook a wild yet managed garden. The dream home isn't just about comfort. It's about the narrative. Every guest who enters is told a story by the house itself. This was salvaged from the collapsed barn out back. Or, this light fixture was found in the basement and rewired for LED. Dream home. Why do we call these specific projects dream homes rather than just renovated houses? It is because they fulfill a deeper psychological need for placemaking in a world that is increasingly digital and transient. Owning a piece of the earth with a deep history provides a sense of grounding. There's also the hero's journey aspect for the homeowner. To take something that the world had discarded, something dead, and bring it back to life is a powerful act of creation. It is a rebellion against the throwaway culture. It asserts that things, and by extension people and memories, have inherent value regardless of their current condition. Restoration. While the heart of restoration is manual labor, the brain is increasingly technological. Beyond AI visualization, we are seeing the rise of 3D printing in historic preservation. If a house has unique, hand-carved crown molding that has been destroyed by rot, restorers can now scan a small surviving fragment and 3D print the replacement in a durable wood composite material that is indistinguishable from the original. Smart home integration has also changed the game. An abandoned house from the 1920s wasn't built for Ethernet cables or HVAC ducts. Modern restorers are becoming masters of invisible technology, hiding speakers behind plaster, tucking climate-controlled vents into floorboards, and using wireless switches to avoid tearing into sensitive historic walls. The result is a home that looks like a period piece but functions like a spaceship. Reclaiming the wild. The restoration of an abandoned house does not stop at the front door. Usually, the ground of such a property have returned to a state of controlled chaos. Reclaiming the landscape is often as satisfying as the interior work. The modern dream home aesthetic often embraces a new perennial movement, a style of gardening that looks natural and a bit wild, echoing the time when a house sat abandoned, but carefully curated for beauty and biodiversity. The sight of a perfectly restored white farmhouse sitting in a sea of tall, golden grasses and purple salvia is the ultimate visual reward. It suggests that the house and the land have reached a truce. It would be a disservice of craft to suggest that this journey is easy. The money pit is a cliche for a reason. Restoring an abandoned house into a dream home almost always costs more and takes longer than building from scratch. There are the hidden horrors: asbestos, lead paint, cracked sewer lines, and the discovery that the solid foundation is actually resting on loose soil. But for those who finish, the ROI, return on investment, isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in the weight of the home. A new build feels light, almost temporary. A restored home feels heavy. It feels like it has roots that go down deep into the water table. The house that refused to die. Consider the story of a small stone cottage in the Italian countryside, abandoned after the Second World War. For 70 years, it housed only sheep and shadows. The roof had fallen in, and a fig tree was growing through the center of what used to be the kitchen. A couple purchased it for the price of a used car. Over 3 years, they hand-scrubbed every stone. They used lime mortar, just as the original masons had. They sourced reclaimed timber from a local shipwreck for the ceiling beams. Today, that cottage is a world-renowned architectural marvel. It features a glass roof over the central courtyard, where the fig tree was allowed to stay, and heated stone floors. The dream in this home isn't a luxury. It's the survival. It's the fact that the house was given a second chance. As urban sprawl hits its limit and the cost of new materials skyrockets, the restoration of abandoned spaces is moving from a hobby for the wealthy to a necessity for the many. We are seeing abandoned factories turn into lofts, abandoned schools turn into community hubs, and abandoned malls turn into micro-cities. This movement represents a shift in our collective consciousness. We are beginning to realize that the most sustainable building is the one that already exists. By focusing our creative energy on restoration, we reduce waste, preserve history, and create homes that have a character that money cannot buy and architects cannot manufacture from thin air. Imagine stepping onto the porch of your completed dream home. The wood no longer groans. It hums with the silent energy of a structure that knows it is loved. You look at the front door, The same door that was hanging by a single hinge 3 years ago, now sanded, stained, and fitted with a heavy brass knocker. You enter the foyer, and the air is clean, smelling of beeswax and old wood. The light pours into restored stained glass windows, casting dancing colors across a floor that has seen a century of footsteps. You walk into the kitchen, where the AI-modeled layout works in perfect harmony with your movements. You realize then that you didn't just fix a house. You rescued a piece of time. The allure of the abandoned to dream home pipeline remains one of the most powerful narratives in modern culture. It touches on our deepest fears of being forgotten and our highest hopes of being renewed. Every time someone buys a fixer-upper that the rest of the world has given up on, they are making a bet on the future. They are saying that beauty is worth the work, that history is worth the hassle, and that even the most broken things can be made whole again. The shutter that once sounded like a heartbeat in the wind has been fixed. It no longer thuds. The house is quiet now, breathing deeply, waiting for the next 100 years of stories to begin. This is the true definition of a dream home, a place where the past and the future sit down at the same table and find they have plenty to talk about. In the end, we don't just live in these houses. We become part of their long, slow, and beautiful life.